Warm greetings from the High 10. It's Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. First of all, I want to give praise to God for another day above ground because somebody didn't wake up today. And as most of you know, Vladimir Putin has decided to wage war with Ukraine and possibly will veer out of that territory into other said territories. And we're going to pray that this will not be a day-for-day situation, because all governments now have seen what he is capable of. You have seen the casualties thus far in the past, 2 days? So there is no reason to prolong the inevitable. He must be stopped. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is no discussion that needs to transpire. He is not willing to speak. He has lied to the general public, his own country, and to the Ukraine. He has infiltrated their land unjustly, and there is nothing else to talk about. Nothing. He is not going to talk to you because he lied the other day when he said he would engage in conversation. He's past that point, and that is obvious. There are people dead on the ground as I speak, and they are not affiliated with any military institution and or bases in the Ukraine. He is a dirty motherfucker, and you all are going to have to take him out. That's the bottom line. And I think most of us knew that one day Russia would enact harm, possibly to us, because we are known as the greatest place on the earth. And we have become a threat to many people abroad and even in the United States. And it was always a running joke from the 80s that they would do something to us, nuke us. They had the power, they had the button when Vladimir was a young man at that time, nowhere near politics. And it was scary then, as a child in the 80s, thinking of these people I didn't know anything about could wipe us out. And I think many of you remember the movie The Day After that came out in the 80s. It was a very scary movie to watch, to think that someone would be cruel enough to push a button and wipe us out. Well, he didn't push a button, but he sent troops in to do his dirty work for him. And he cannot be alive. And it's a sad thing to say, the plotting to take a man's or woman's life, but we are back in the time of Hussein and bin Laden. That is the only way that this is going to stop. And if any country sits and allow this to happen, well, you're entitled to your opinion. But this can't go on. He's going to have to be stopped. And the only way he can be stopped is to no longer be breathing, because he's inhumane. He has no feelings for anyone. He has no feelings for those same people that he wants to be a part of Russia. He is eating his own words. You are me. You are us. Well, the us is dead. So there is no us. You're killing innocent people to make a point that you can do it, because that is the point of doing anything. You did it because you could. You didn't need a reason. And I've told you all that so many times when I discuss true crime. Don't ask why. Ask why not. Before I get into my commentary, I will drop the link also for anybody that wants to give their commentary on Putin's decision to invade the Ukraine. I'm going to bring you a story out of Washington State. It's a very horrific story. I will probably go live with this story later. It will not be my subject this evening because I want to just focus on the issue at hand pertaining to the Ukraine. But this is a very baffling story I found today, and I want to read you the information briefly. You can ponder on it until the next live. NBC is the source. Severely disabled Washington woman, 28, left abandoned in towed car for 9 days in frigid weather. Police said the woman was last seen February 5th with her mother, parked her car at a gas station in Kent, and then walked away, leaving her inside. Let me see if I can get this story up.
Will this keep her safe?
1 second, you guys.
Called us and said, please search the car. They saved her life. They saved her life.
Bonifacio Pauza of Skyway Towing in Burien says a call from Kent police looking for a missing woman caused them to double-check this 2004 Cadillac they towed from a gas station in Burien 9 days earlier.
We sent one of our drivers out. He unlocked the car and had to go through it. She was laying in the back seat and had a whole bunch of clothes and stuff on top of her. She was bad enough that my employee immediately contacted us, and we called 911, had an ambulance and the police dispatched out here.
The person they found was a 28-year-old woman missing for more than a week. Family members worried they hadn't heard from her contacted Kent police. Investigators discovered she was last seen February 5th when her mother, a 45-year-old Kent woman, abandoned her car at a gas station, leaving her adult daughter inside. The vehicle was towed. Pauza says it's common for his company to tow vehicles without getting into them, and says that in this case, his driver looked in the windows but didn't see anyone.
So for the most part, just like the law says, we tend to bring the car and give it back to the exact same condition it came in.
And had it not been for the call from a concerned family member and a call from police, they can't help but wonder what may have happened.
The driver who found her is real excited that he was able to find her. He was, oftentimes with towing companies, you don't get to be a hero very often.
Thank you all for that. NBC News is the source. A woman described as severely disabled was left abandoned in a towed car in Washington State in freezing temperatures for 9 days after her mother left her in the vehicle, police said. The woman's sister called police in Kent near Seattle on February 14th, saying her adult sister, whom she described as severely disabled, had not been seen earlier in the month, police said in a news release Tuesday. The investigation found that the woman was last seen February 5th with her mother, 45, parked her vehicle at a gas station in Kent, and then walked off with her daughter still in the car. The car had been privately towed at the request of gas station personnel, police said. Police contacted the tow company, which had moved the car to a lot in Burien. The tow company then checked the car and found the woman in the vehicle. She had been inside the car for 9 days alone in the tow yard during near freezing weather, Kent police said. Police requested medical aid for the woman, whom the King County Sheriff's Office and King County Fire found in serious medical condition. She was transported to a hospital for treatment. Her condition is not known. NBC affiliate King of Seattle reported that the woman is 28 years old. Bonifacio Pauza of Skyway Towing in Burien told the station that the business got a call about the missing woman from Kent police, who asked to search a vehicle they had towed 9 days earlier. That call saved her life, Pauza said. We sent one of our drivers out. He unlocks the car and had to go through it. She was laying in the back seat and had a whole bunch of clothes and stuff on top of her, Pauza said. He said it is common for the company to tow vehicles without getting into them, and that in this case, his driver looked into the windows but didn't see anyone. The investigation is ongoing. Kent police did not respond to a request for comment about whether any charges have been filed. We're extremely relieved that we are able to locate and rescue the victim, Police Chief Rafael Padilla said in a statement. If not for the efforts of our officers and the support of King County Sheriffs and Fire, this incident would likely have ended in tragedy. NBC News is the source. What type of human being are you, lady? Thing, because you're not a lady, to leave your adult disabled child in a car in the winter, and by the grace of God, your other child decides to call police because she can't locate the sister. I do not know if the other sister lived in the same household with you all, you two, but it's sickening that for 9 days, nobody is concerned about this disabled child. Nobody's asking about this disabled child but the sister. So we have to ask ourselves, where does the sister live? Does she live in the same state, same town? What? She would have died in that car. And you are a foul, foul being to leave your child in a car to die. And the sick part is she obviously could not move because the man said he looked through the window, didn't see anything but debris and clothes in the back seat. So you deliberately covered your child with God knows what in that back seat. We also have to ask how big the 28-year-old woman is to be covered to where nobody could notice a foot or arm hanging out of the debris in the back seat of the car. The fact you left your own car there with your child. What car were you supposed to be driving after leaving her there in your car? You have a spare car? You are sick. And I pray to God that the system, the court, will not fail your daughter. Because slapping you on the wrist, giving you a bond, it ain't good enough. It is time for people to stop letting people out of jail and giving them bonds for abuse and neglect of other people and children. You'll probably get probation. That ain't good enough. You need your ass whipped. I pray that this young lady gets proper care, either by a facility or nursing home. I'm assuming she can't walk or move, for her to lie still 9 days without banging on a car window to get out. Nine days. A 28-year-old disabled woman lied in the backseat of a car, deliberately left there and covered up by her own mother. You are a cruel bitch. And to me, you're no different than the topic of my discussion, which is Vladimir Putin. You are the same caliber. You're cut from the same cloth. You did it because you could. You didn't care, and you didn't even look back. And you're bold enough to leave her there in your own damn car. So what were you going to tell the authorities when they came a knocking to tell you your baby's dead in a car, your grown child? What were you going to say? Oh, somebody stole my car. Oops, you didn't even report your car stolen. You are a sick witch. You're a sick witch. I'll bring you all the information later to go live pertaining to this horrific story out of Washington State. Now with my commentary pertaining to the dirty, dirty war by Vladimir Putin against the Ukraine. How far is he going to go? Is he going to step outside of the Ukraine and enter into Poland and other said jurisdictions? I'm going to say this on my live with no regret. You step your ass past the Ukraine, you are dead meat, Vladimir Putin. You can bet your bottom dollar. Nobody is going to let you invade another jurisdiction. And if any country allows this to go past the Ukraine, then you all are just as vile as Vladimir Putin. Because this is absolutely ridiculous to be sitting here watching people flooding buses and trains and crying because they don't know where they're going to go, where they're going to sleep, where they're going to eat for no damn reason. And the fact that he threatened anybody that gets involved should let you know he is doing this out of pure spite, and he had no intention of just sending troops in. For what reason? Anybody with sense should have known once they were in, they were going to destroy the land. Why are you going to send troops in? They weren't peacekeeping troops. They were there to seek and destroy. And there are people right now dead because of him and his minions. He cares nothing for the Ukraine or the inhabitants thereof. He has never cared for anybody. He's like his predecessors. They're all the same. They've never cared for their own people. So all I can say is I joked last night, you a vodka drinker, you best to get all the vodka you're going to buy coming up out of that. Russia or anywhere else. Because you may never see vodka again on the damn shelves unless it's made here in the United States. This is a serious situation. This is a dire situation. There are lives at stake. And I did not want America to get involved because we've been involved in enough of other people's business. And we can no longer keep getting involved in other people's business. We just left overseas. And now troops are going back over. This is horrendous. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.
Say hi, everybody.
Hold on a minute, you guys. Sorry about that. Thank you.
In on the city center of Kiev, of course, that is the capital of Ukraine. Explosions have been heard across the country. The president said more than 130 Ukrainians were killed in the first day of fighting. Charlie Daggett kicks off our team coverage of the conflict from Kiev. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning to you, Vlad. Residents here woke up to air raid sirens, including us this morning, if they got any sleep at all. We heard huge explosions. They started around 4 o'clock in the morning. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said Russian reconnaissance groups, reconnaissance teams, have reached parts of the city in the north, just a few miles from the city center itself. Explosions lit up the city skyline overnight. It's unclear whether this is a Russian or Ukrainian aircraft falling from the sky in flames, but missiles and rockets rained down on the capital in the early hours. A shattered apartment block in the city, proof of the indiscriminate strikes that pounded residential neighborhoods.
My mother screaming, wake up, wake up. I'm waiting, walking the dust, screaming.
At first light, the Ukrainian president told his people what they already knew. At 4 a.m., Russian forces launched missile strikes. He said, they say civilian objects are not a target for them. This is a lie. On the northern outskirts of the city, a ferocious battle broke out at the Gostomel air base. Ukrainian forces trying to fend off invading Russian paratroopers. Day 2 of the invasion, and Russian troops are knocking on the door of the capital itself. They advanced south from Belarus, seizing Chernobyl and the highly radioactive grounds of the former nuclear power plant north of Kiev. In desperation, the government put out the call for men 18 to 60 to arm themselves for battle, banning them from fleeing the country. Plenty have stepped forward. This morning, they were handing out guns at a local sports facility. They don't want us revealing this location because they don't want it to be a target for the Russian military. But we've seen a steady stream of volunteers. The commander told us it's not hundreds, but thousands, very few with any military experience, every single one of them ready to fight. Imagine Georgi, a map maker by trade, says he'll learn on the go. Why was it important for you to volunteer today? This is my country. He said, I have a family. I have a duty to protect my family and my country. And this is what it has come down to today. The reality that the Russians are on the way and closing in fast. And that raises the terrifying prospect of street-to-street guerrilla warfare, outmatched, outgunned, and out of options. Anne-Marie and Vlad?
Yeah, Charlie, you said it right there. I thought to myself, it is certainly admirable to see civilians willing to take up arms to protect their country. It flies in the face of Putin's assertion that somehow Ukrainians feel like they're Russian or are Russian. They're not. They're Ukrainian and they're proud. But it's also an indication of just how outgunned they are. Is there a concern that Russian forces will take over the capital, Kiev? I mean, sooner than later. What are you seeing in the city?
Well, certainly they are advancing much quicker, and they have advanced much quicker in the past 24 hours. And this is real. There have been people in neighborhoods in the north who've been encouraged by the government, and when I say the north, I mean north here in the capital, to make Molotov cocktails. There are reports that something like 18,000 guns have been handed out. And we went to that place. They didn't want us, as I said in that short piece there, that they didn't want us to show the location for obvious reasons. But it was kind of like a sports facility. And there was just a line of people that were going in. These men, I was going to say young men. They weren't all young. People ranging in age from, as I said, 18 to, I'd say 60 and above. And they were going there and they were loaded up. I mean, they had their blankets, they had sleeping mats. They were getting ready to bed in, and a lot of them were getting weapons. We were told that they were concerned that they didn't have enough weapons to go around. And the commander said, I said, what do you do in that situation? They said, well, we're just going to have to take the weapons off soldiers. Can you hold on for a moment? Can you hear that in the distance?
Yeah.
I do. And then it stopped. So what's been happening in the past 2.5, 3 minutes or so are those thuds. And what's unique about that versus what we've been hearing in the past, 24, 36 hours, which sounded like possibly cruise missiles or airstrikes, this is repeated. And it's further away. Those aren't anywhere near as loud as some of the explosions that we've been hearing throughout the day, which would suggest, and I'm no expert, trust me, there might be artillery fire on the outskirts of the city. But this is why everybody's on edge. They woke up to those the air raid sirens. That apartment building got hit. People are arming up now. They're ready to defend their neighborhoods. They have a tremendous amount of support for Ukrainian forces who've been fighting Russian forces, but they know eventually they're going to be outnumbered, and they're obviously outgunned. We know for a fact that paratroopers have advanced to areas around the city trying to take airfields. So what everybody's expecting now is this sort of final onslaught, but they are willing to defend their territory with everything they've got, which isn't much.
Charlie, I'm struck by the images that have been coming out of Ukraine, shot by you and other reporters there on the ground, showing young children frightened by the sound of the aerial bombardment. And then there's President Zelensky, who has essentially said that he is a direct target of President Putin and the Russians, and not just the president, but his family as well. That has to be absolutely terrifying to know that a head of state is being targeted by another head of state. What are you learning, if anything, about what measures, what precautions are being taken by President Zelensky should the Russians capture Kiev? Is there a way for him to essentially, and I don't want to make it sound like a Bond movie, but to escape from the clutches of the Russians?
Well, I'm sure plans are in place, Vlad. But when you look at President Zelensky, he's really been trying to rally the forces, and it's been difficult for him. This is a former professional comedian. He's been thrown into this situation. He has to be defiant. As of yesterday, when the bombs started falling after 5 a.m. after President Putin's speech, he said that he was going to be on air, that he was still in the capital, and he was going to be on air every hour in order to reassure the people of Ukraine, especially the people in Kiev. After that, we didn't hear from him for 7 hours. So I'm not entirely sure they're in control of the situation on the ground, but he knows he's a target. The thing about being a foe to President Putin, it doesn't end well for anybody. So being defiant, being the president of Ukraine, where you've got the Russians who are invading, President Putin himself on the march, he understands entirely the terrifying dynamics that he himself will be targeted, arrested or worse. So he may as well just go ahead and defiantly face those threats and those fears and stand up for the people of Ukraine. And it's really not, when I say this, I'm not cheerleading. The people that you speak to here are incredibly defiant. They're determined. They will fight. This is not, we went there this morning, it didn't feel like a pep rally. A lot of the men we spoke to, they were upset. I mean, they were visibly upset. Which means that they were taking seriously the challenges ahead and they're ready to fight. And President Zelensky has tapped into that. Once again, he really doesn't have much more than to stand for this. But in terms of the leadership, he also understands that they have to hold out for as long as they can. And I cannot imagine being Russia's neighbor. The threat has been here since 2014 and long before that they haven't made some sort of contingency plans if the Russians close in and if they close in quickly.
I think what's so stunning, Vlad and Charlie, for me is, as I'm talking to you, Charlie, as we're talking to you, I think just like a week ago, how different everything was, how different the city of Kiev looked. It was busy behind you. We were talking about people walking to Poland to try to escape. The radical change, and even watching President Zelensky with the various press conferences, how he went from the suit to sort of the
wearing a
fleece, and then it was a T-shirt, and you could just tell that he had been like. He's sort of burning the candle at both ends. And one of the quotes that he said that really struck me, Charlie, is he says to the Ukrainian people, "We are protecting our country alone, like yesterday. The most powerful country in the world watched from afar."
And yet,
I was like, oh.
I know, it's so difficult and disturbing to hear those words, Anne-Marie and Charlie, but one thing that we should point out is that the United States, for the last month, has been sort of sharing this intelligence, which was classified intelligence with Russian troop movements. And you reported, Charlie, from the streets in Kiev and other parts of Ukraine, that people were not really believing that Vladimir Putin would go this far, that when the troop movement started to happen 24 hours ago, a little over 24 hours ago, people were surprised in Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, Vlad, first of all, it's human nature. When you're about to face something this catastrophic, you really kind of hope for the best. And it wasn't a question of denial. We were speaking to people here in Kiev. They weren't utterly convinced that Russia was not going to attack the capital. It just didn't make sense to them. They thought this struggle and the conflict would continue and worsen in the east. Not that they believed President Putin's words when he said he was not going to invade. Clearly he did. Now he says he doesn't want to occupy the area. They're not going to believe anything that President Putin says. And this battle has largely been contained to the east, and it really hasn't affected the capital. And when you're here, and you're a young man or a young woman, you've got a family, you have to make these decisions, which are really tough. Do I leave what I know is the safety of my own home in a city of 3 million people? Is it really going to affect me? Or am I going to be running the risk of getting hit from artillery or an airstrike? Now with the Russians marching in, it's changed the calculus entirely. Tens of thousands of people have tried to flee the city. There will be many more. People are hiding out in bomb shelters. But this isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen. So it's partly human nature, but they are not in denial. They've been watching the reports. They've been seeing the information coming out of Washington, all the intelligence that's been shared. President Zelensky has been sharing that information too. He knows that he has to because there are other sources of getting that information, but he's tried to maintain, tried not to sow panic, because it was terrifying when you hear that the Russians are about to invade between 150 and 190,000 Russians with all of the weaponry are perched and ready to make a move. You're still hoping for the best, but realizing that things could go very badly wrong. And that's what we've seen over the past 24, 36 hours, where people are starting to appreciate reality. Now, as you said, the roads behind me are essentially empty. A lot of the shops are closed. There's a big rush to get fuel. It's always the case in a situation like this when you're facing a crisis. Same as in the United States when you're facing a natural disaster. It's similar to that in terms of what you do in preparation. But people are moving to safer ground. A lot of people are now headed west to Lviv. That's about 7 or 8 hours out of here, west to the border with Poland, because they're keeping their options open. And when you're in a scenario like this, you start running out of options when you've got the attacks that are happening. You wake up in the morning and you hear these explosions. The kids are getting worried. You hear the air raid sirens. It's getting closer. You're essentially waiting for the Russians to invade. At some point, you're thinking, well, am I going to hunker down and wait this out and just hope for the best? Or am I going to get out of here and get someplace safer?
Such a vivid picture. Charlie, thanks for letting us know how just regular Ukrainians are handling this crisis situation. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, that's CBS News. Russia closes in on Kiev with more explosions reported across the Ukraine overnight. We're in day 2 of this madness abroad. We'll try to keep you abreast on the information as long as this war is at hand. It is a sad situation, pathetic situation, to even have to be talking about a country warring with any other country for no damn reason in 2022. We have enough crime and madness and mayhem here in the United States and abroad, and people are entitled to live as they see fit. They're entitled to go where they want and roam. But when you decide to touch down in an unknown land for no reason and wreak havoc, you have now violated a person's civil liberties. And for that, Putin, he is an adversary at this point, because you're now invading the rights of somebody's civil liberties. When you decided to bomb whatever, whether you say it was for this reason, that reason, I'm only going to do it for the military bases, it's a lie. This whole situation is a farce. It's a ruse to gain control of something that does not belong to you. You are one man. That place does not belong to you. You don't own it. It is what it is. The people were separate. That's how they wanted it. Leave it be. But no, you cannot. So you're asking for man to handle you in a very severe manner, which will probably be death in the end, because there's no way you're going to get him alive, probably. You try to capture Putin, you'll have to kill him. That's just the bottom line. There'll be no bringing him in. In where exactly? I do not want America involved only because we've had enough strife with Afghanistan, Iraq. But from my understanding with this NATO situation, they're not a part of NATO, the Ukraine, but Poland is. So they're going to sit, I guess, idly by and wait to see what he does. But you really don't have that kind of time to wait and see what he's going to do. He's already showing you what he can do. You're already in day 2. And people are dead. So what else do you need? This can't go on. Yes, the sanctions, that's up for interpretation. Banks closing, seizing money. In the end, as the banks and all that has nothing to do with somebody dying on the ground. An innocent child dying, an innocent woman, man dying. Somebody was going about their business, minding their business. They don't know Putin. They don't know him personally. You are violating someone's civil liberties. That's the bottom line. And these people have a right to live cohesively as they see fit. You have no right to intervene into the land and take over the land and bomb the land and kill these people and destroy property. That is what you're doing. In a place that doesn't belong to you, it's not connected to Russia. It's not for you. Well, from my understanding, my whodunit who sits up here on the panel with me on occasion says that Ukraine has a very viable resource. I can't remember the name of what she called it, but she said it's a very important source that's used in chemicals, some type of chemical. I don't know what it is, but nonetheless, to me, it doesn't really matter, because when you start trying to divvy up what the land has, whether it be water, gas, this or that, still no reason to invade somebody's home. It's not your home. It's not your home. So it doesn't really matter what the resources are in the Ukraine or anywhere else. He has no right to send troops in. And if you're already destroying buildings which have people in them, you're going to go as far as your troops' feet will carry them. That's just the bottom line. If you'd like to join the panel, the link has been dropped. This is an open panel discussion pertaining to the dirty business of Russia invading Ukraine. Give your public opinion of what you think this scenario is about and how will it end, because I don't see it ending well for the people of the Ukraine. I don't see it ending well even for the people of Russia, because in the end, Putin is their leader. And how terrible would it be to have this man as your leader? He's leading his people downhill. I would not want to be a Russian right now. For what reason? Because now people will judge Russians as they've done other races. Oh my goodness, you're from that place. Because that's how people judge people, according to what their leaders do. I don't like the president, so now I judge everybody in that land. Well, that's not usually how it works. We as regular people don't have control over what our politicians and presidents do. It's not our choice. I can vote for you, but after that, you will do what you want to do. Hit the link if you want to give your opinion. Thank you for joining me. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, $ Beganji 129 Cash App. All super chats are welcome during this live. Thank you so much for joining me. I feel that Ukraine is a pathway to other lands that Putin wants, Baltic states. Well, that gas line is in that Baltic Sea, and Russia has control over that. So that's a problem for other countries, I've heard, pertaining to Germany and other countries who are depending on that gas. So that is a problem. It is sad that everything always comes down to some type of resource that one country has that another country wants. That's what we heard a long time ago with the war in Iraq. Afghanistan was about oil, allegedly. But in the end, this didn't start about oil, in my opinion. Somebody decided to send their minions in to destroy the United States. I don't think oil was a subject at that time. When people decided to strap bombs on themselves, get on an airplane with knives, and take down airlines in the United States and fly them into the buildings. It's ridiculous. Well, one thing I've learned about money and power, a dead man can't spend money, and a dead man doesn't have any power. Because that's where this is going to end up. Somebody will have to take him out. There's no way you will be able to reason with him at this point. There's not anything to talk about at this point. He's already gone to war, so there's nothing to discuss. He lied to the public. He lied to his own people. He lied to the Ukrainians. He lied. He went in anyway. And there are people now dead because of Vladimir Putin. It's a wrap. Yeah, he's not. This isn't going to end well for people. You know, every day trying to decide what Putin's going to do is a waste of time. He's already shown you what he's capable of. There's nowhere else to take it. Let me see what's new in here in the queue pertaining to this. Thank you, Sharon. I want to bring you some information from some people that they want to give their opinion pertaining to what's going on over there. This is People Magazine. Thank you so much for joining me.
Continues to share updates on his situation while he is still in Ukraine's capital, Kiev.
I'm safe. We haven't been told to move, and I'm just following instructions. That's all I can say. But the reality is that I'm also talking to my friends that are here, the Ukrainians, and the situation is pretty dire. People are being mobilized. The whole country is being called to go to war.
Chmerkovskiy emphasized that he is not reporting the news, but warned that if the situation isn't resolved in the next few days, he thinks things could get far worse.
People that I'm talking to are very aggressively charged, and that this is going to be tough. So if it's not resolved in a peaceful manner, in some way or form, in the next day or so or two, I think it's going to take us a turn for very, very much more aggressive actions and a lot more casualties.
In another video, the pro dancer tells his fans that he has decided not to try and escape to Poland because he has been told it's not safe. Amid Chmerkovskiy's updates, his wife, Peta Murgatroyd, is asking for prayers and well wishes for her husband. On Thursday, she wrote on Instagram that while she usually doesn't ask for such things on social media, today is extremely hard, and the next few will be even harder. She added that her pain is overwhelming and she is struggling. Meanwhile, according to ESPN, former heavyweight champion Vitaly Klitschko, who is also the mayor of Kiev, has said that he plans to take up arms to defend his country against Russia's invasion. The outlet also reported that his brother Vladimir had already enlisted in the Ukrainian Reserve Army earlier this month as Ukraine braced for the invasion. Russian President Vladimir Putin's aggression toward Ukraine has been widely condemned by the international community, including with economic sanctions and NATO troops massing in the region. Putin insists Ukraine has historic ties to Russia, and he is acting in the interest of so-called peacekeeping.
All right. That's People Magazine. Thank you for joining me. The panel is open. You don't have to comment in the chat. Feel free to hit the link and give your public opinion. If you'd like to give your opinion pertaining to the war at hand, this is an open discussion pertaining to Vladimir Putin's decision to invade the Ukraine. I guess I'll just wait. Well, '66 viewing. It's a serious situation abroad. My next update, source is Yahoo Finance. Pertaining to the U.S. unveils more sanctions as Russia sends troops into Kharkiv.
We want to check in with our Jennifer Schoenberger, who's been following all of the developments. And Jen, it is not an easy task because getting reports about potential more sanctions on individuals, including Vladimir Putin, we're also getting reports about potential being openness to talk. So where do you want to begin?
Good morning, Julia. Where do we start? Well, I will tell you that Russian forces moved by air and land to attack Ukraine's capital, Kiev, Friday morning, as the administration warned that the capital could soon fall. President Biden commencing a meeting right now, actually, with NATO heads of state virtually in the Situation Room to discuss the situation in and around Ukraine. Kiev was hit by a series of Russian airstrikes that shook the city center through the morning after Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered an all-out assault on Ukraine, pushing people to flee for shelter in subways and basements. Russia's assault has triggered a surge of calls from Western officials to completely cut Russia off from the global financial system. The European Union expected to sign off on sanctions today that will cut 70% of Russia's banking system off from international financial markets and place limits on the amount of money Russian elites can hold in the EU. The FT reporting this morning that they could be preparing to freeze assets of Putin and Lavrov. Now, the U.S. slapped a second set of new sanctions on Russia Thursday, cutting off Russia's largest bank from the U.S. financial system. The U.S. has now frozen out every single Russian bank from the U.S., together accounting for about $1 trillion in assets.
Wow.
New export controls are also cutting off more than half of Russia's high-tech imports. Biden says these sanctions are the equivalent consequence of cutting off SWIFT, which was not used, but Biden says that option is always on the table, that Europeans right now prefer not to use that trigger. As well, sanctioning Putin remains on the table, the president says. The president not scheduled to appear on camera today, but given that he is meeting right now with NATO heads of state, this is a fluid situation. We'll see how things progress as the day goes on. Julie?
Yes, we will indeed. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, that's Yahoo News. Very informative information. So all financial institutions from Russia linked to the United States have been frozen. Amen. So that's how you start. You break the machine down, as a YouTuber called someone a machine. To break the machine down, start at the toes. Work your way up. Because everybody knows you need money to do anything. So that's a start. Break down all funds, because you have to have money to navigate the world. The troops have to sleep at some point. They've got to eat. You didn't think about that, did you? You have to have money to rule the world. Without money, you can't do anything. It's a good start. It's a great start. But the next start is to get Putin out of the way, because this can't go on. Those soldiers have to have direction from their superiors, their commanders. See, everything's a chain of command. Little man, little man, little man, big man, middle man, all the way up to Putin. You take down the leader, and now the rest will fold. It's usually how it works. Thank you, Jude. If you'd like to be heard, the option's open. All right. Well, if you'd like to hit the link, feel free to give your commentary, dear. Excuse me, I'm writing down some information here. Put on a community page to keep you all abreast of what's going on. If you need verification for any information, my community post holds all these videos and commentary that I play. Thank you for calling from the UK. Thank you so much. Well, the thing is, it's a start with the money, because you have to have money. And then you also have to think about the entities who have the banks here and other countries who will probably seize their banks as well. People want their money, and that's going to be a problem, even if you're not in conjunction and or in agreement with what Putin's doing. You're from that land, and you have monies over here, over there, and if those countries decide to seize your money, that's going to be a problem. And then they're going to go to the head knocker, which is Mr. Putin, and say, hey, homeboy, I got money over there in the US, China, wherever, and I want my money. And they're not holding my money. And they're holding my money because of you. So that's going to be a problem for the people that he so-called is protecting. You see, what will be the test is when his own people turn on him to let him know, we're not in agreement with what you're doing. You're causing us problems and strife. And I won't be surprised if he decides one day in the near future, he won't even let y'all come in or out of Russia. You all better wake up. If a man will go to another land and bomb it, he will make sure you can't get your ass in or out of Russia. I won't be surprised if the airports are closed. You can't even go get on an airplane to go flee, see a friend, business, school. Think about people who live in Russia, other places that are traveling abroad or other places. They're probably scared to death to go back home. They don't even know what to expect. There are also people traveling, going to school from the Ukraine. They're in the United States. All type of shenanigans comes with this. Now they're talking about not deporting anybody in the United States from the Ukraine, which that made no sense, because if they're here, that means they got here legally, either by visa, temporary visa. So why would they be, what would be the need of not deporting them? Deporting to me means that was a decision made to send you back because you were here illegally or past your time. It's a wicked situation. And nobody's thinking about the refugees, the people who are now fleeing. Where are they supposed to go? You know, that was always something people would say to me, you know, over the years. Oh, pack up your stuff, just go over there, move over there. Oh, go to California, go to New York. With what? You have to have money to go somewhere. You got to have a plan. You got to have somewhere to stay. You got to have food. You got to have a job. You got to have a car. Just don't go somewhere, move. So these people are now refugees. They're fleeing for their life. Where are they to go? You're talking about millions of people now don't have anywhere to stay. You want them to go where exactly? Just, go over there. See if you can get over there. Get over there how? With what? What about the elderly people? See, this man doesn't give a damn about anybody. There are people in nursing homes, assisted living. Where are they to go in the Ukraine right now while he's bombing the land? Someone in their chat mentioning about Kiev having power cut. So imagine you're in the hospital on oxygen. You're sick. Now what? You're in the nursing home, sick. Now what? He doesn't care. I'm telling you, in the end, Russia is going to fall. And so the inhabitants of Russia are in no better shape than the people in the Ukraine. Russia is going to fall because of Putin. He did this. He did this. So innocent people in Russia and Ukraine are going to be in dire straits. And when people got news a week or so ago Biden and other entities were speaking of Russia invading, you all should have been at the ATM a long time ago getting your money out. But you were like the president there in Ukraine. He didn't take Putin serious. He underestimated him. Oh, he's had time to invade. He ain't done nothing. Well, he's there now. He's there now. Never underestimate anybody. You get wind of something, you might want to believe that it's true. You don't sit idly by and wait to see what they're going to do. Because my understanding is that Zelensky didn't even want to respond. Well, I won't respond to anything. Well, look where that got you. He's already there. You don't have the manpower to fight back. You now have people in the street buying weapons and being given weapons. As the reporter says, that shows you that they are understaffed to fight these soldiers. You're talking about 150,000 up to 190,000 estimate of troops on the ground. That is a lot of people to take over a land. But they say that Poland or somewhere 8 hours away or something, I want to see if this fool is crazy enough to travel 8 hours to infiltrate another land. Have mercy. Prayers for the Ukraine. Prayers for any land that he may decide to infiltrate. That is why you have to stop him now. You don't sit back and wait to see how far Putin is going to go. That's a fool's way. Because everybody's been sitting by for weeks anticipating something. I didn't know. I didn't keep up. I don't keep up with politics every day. Especially foreign affairs. I do not. But America knew something. And Biden told that the other day. I am giving to you secret information. So somebody was in America's ear about what was on the ground and what was to happen. And it did happen. So it wasn't that it was a lie. Biden said, I told you weeks ago he was planning an invasion. Well, he's there now. So it's not a lie. It is the truth. His reasons are a lie. He has no reason to be over there. He went over there because he wanted to. Excuse me. Hello, Kate. Thank you for joining me. This is a serious situation, and many people are going to be affected by the decision of Putin invading Ukraine. Because there are people here in the United States that have family abroad. There are people who are over there, have family in different places, and they're not going to be able to keep up with them because, one, you have to be able to keep your phone charged in order to talk to people. You have to have power if you have a landline. See, these are things that people do not think about when you're at war. Power. You have to have power to power everything. The computer, the TV, the radio. This is serious. Good afternoon. If you want to give your opinion pertaining to the war, Russia versus Ukraine, hit the link. If not, I'm checking out of here. I'm doing a service to the public to let you all have an ear. Give the public an ear, give you a voice to speak. No, it's not our fight. And I don't want the U.S. to get involved. It is time for other countries to aid their own allies. We can no longer depend on the U.S. to do everything. Every war, every situation, every flood, every hurricane, every tsunami. It cannot be America's job to run in because America has her own problems. She is a dirty country herself. She has villains and demons here. She has strife, violence in the streets here. the time you spend fighting and peace trooping somewhere else, you could be walking the streets of Chicago. Hell, give some of them thugs a curfew. Let them see what it's like they can't roam and go no damn where. Go to the streets of Memphis, LA, all major cities, Atlanta, instruct the same mayhem. Walk the streets to show them, what are you doing out here? Up. You got to be going or coming, sir. No hanging, no loitering. You see, we are unfortunate. We don't have those third world country rules. But perhaps we need them for people who don't want to obey the law, people who want to wreak havoc in the streets, make it impossible for you to live, for your children to go to school, play outside, go to places. Maybe we need the militia to walk the streets to show you, you are going to abide by the rules or you are going to lay by the wayside. Because it is time for us to have some structure. Because it seems that having free liberty to roam is not even working here in the U.S. People are taking over. You're not even safe in your house or outside of your house. Your properties are not safe. You're not safe at the job. You're not safe at work. You're not safe any damn where. Because people are crazy. And that's the thing. You don't know the mindset of another human being. You have sociopaths running around, walking around beside you. Happy today, tomorrow, go on a job, shoot everybody up because they had a bad day. They got fired. They got reprimanded. They lost their money. They lost their wife. They lost their kids. So let me go kill everybody. Something has to stop. We cannot continue on the way we're going here in the United States. And Putin is a prime example of what happens when one gets the big head and shit feels like their shit don't stink. Now I'm going to go do what I want to do. I'll go use these puppets to go infiltrate the land, and they'll be my minions, my little devil workers. And sadly, some of these people are going to end up dead, these troops. Because when you get other people to come in to fight, there are going to be some dead people. That's the bottom line. Sadly, there will be some dead people. And there'll be some dead troops on either side. This is serious. Very serious situation. I was going to find something in here pertaining to Mr. Biden, any information where he's spoken. And then I'll check out of here since no one wants to give any commentary. Trying to find something brief where he's spoken. The president, I can't find anything. This is pertaining to how long can Russia afford to fight through sanctions. ABC News is the source.
Security analyst and former U.S. Homeland Security Advisor Tom Bossert joins us. Tom, let's just bring folks up to date right now with regard to military assets. We've got more than 5,000 American forces stationed in Poland. That's where our Phil Lipoff is. He's been paying attention to the 82nd Airborne, other air assets that have responded now and are engaged. This role has been changing from deter and assure to being deployed to the border, checkpoints, also to help with the possible flow of traffic. A lot of different missions going on here. Is there a particular reason for Putin's timing on all of this. I mean, clearly the U.S. is responding, but when you look at this overall effort and try to figure out what exactly is going through Vladimir Putin's mind, which is not an easy thing to do, what do you make of his timing now?
Yeah, Kira, there's really two timing questions that are high on my mind. The first is, how long has this been planned? And clearly it's been planned for a long time. Most are speculating at least a year, perhaps as far back as that SolarWinds cyber attack that you saw that gave the Russians access to our federal government systems. So this is the type of thing that wasn't a spontaneous decision on his part. So the why now question really has to be answered by looking into his thinking a year or two ago when he made the decision to start this effort. And then the second timing question is really, how long can it last? A future question. And in that regard, I'm watching China. The sanctions that we're about to announce, the sanctions that have already been applied, and the rest of the global pressure on Russia is going to strangle its operating budget. Remember, these sanctions at this stage aren't so much about deterrence anymore as they are punishment. But Putin went into this knowing what he would face. So he has some assurance in his mind that he's willing, or that his people are willing to endure some suffering. So if China helps them kind of offset the effect of these sanctions, that's going to extend the clock and allow this to, I think, shift into ongoing and maybe kind of persistent tensions. If China doesn't help them, I think Russia's on a limited string here. They can only afford to keep this up for so long.
All right, so if Russia's on a limited string here, can only afford to keep this going for so long, what about Ukraine and putting Ukraine and Russia up against each other? Who's going to be able to last the longest?
Yeah, I don't mean to make that analysis and take it lightly. That in it, I recognize the Ukrainian military is so outmatched. The Russian military is formidable, and the Ukrainian response capacity is not even really in the same league. So I don't think military resistance is going to last for very long. The Ukrainian people are showing a lot of resilience, and there will be a resistance. But without outside military assistance, the Ukrainian military will be outmatched and overrun. I think we're seeing that play out before our eyes. Now, does it shift into exchanges, defenses, insurgency-type battles? I believe it will. But in terms of short-term predictions, the Ukrainian military is not up to the task.
So when you think about Putin and why he's doing this now, why didn't he do this under former President Trump? Why is he choosing to do this under the leadership of Joe Biden?
Well, there's a few things there I don't know. Of course, climbing into Putin's mind is hard to do. And certainly none of us know what President Trump said exactly to President Putin in their private conversations. It is possible, of course, that President Putin assessed that President Trump would either pull back from his NATO obligations or in some way divide Europe in a way that was favorable to President Putin's interests. But again, I think you also have to recognize that elections influence all of these leaders. And President Putin has, subsequent to and unrelated to President Trump or President Biden, gone through his own internal Russian election process. And I think come to the determination that his tenure doesn't have that much longer. He's not as popular as people would have you believe. And then I think, importantly, Kira, the Chinese here have played into his timing. The Chinese have given Putin the assurances for the first time in history that his flank on the Chinese border is safe, and he can move his military off of his southern and off of his eastern borders away from China and redeploy them to this purpose without fearing what's going to happen in his backyard in his back door. So he's left his back door open and exposed to China, knowing that China is not going to exploit him. That's a significant development, and it's independent of our U.S. domestic administration change.
But it also looks like that Putin is not afraid of Joe Biden either, that he witnessed what happened with Afghanistan, and now he's seizing an opportunity to test the waters here. I mean, he clearly is behaving differently with Biden than he did with Trump. Do you think he sees Biden as weak, and that this is his opportunity to just spread his wings even more over territories that he's been wanting to seize for some time?
Well, he ought not to. That might be one of the themes going in our domestic political debate, but I don't see it. He ought to be afraid of the United States, and he ought to be afraid of the United States when they act collectively with all of our European and Western partners. I don't see much to this whole interpersonal diagnosis that's going on. I understand that President Trump would have had the same limitations. Remember, he put weapons in the hands of Ukraine to help fight against the Russians, so the Javelin missiles and so forth, the Javelin anti-tank weaponry. But at the same time, he was calling on NATO allies to pay more money. So, Kira, we'll see how it plays out, and we'll hear from the president.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the
ABC News is the source. This is pertaining to how long can Russia afford to fight through the sanctions. All information will be posted to my community board, so you can view the information yourself. I'm praying that this is not going to be a winded war, because it doesn't have to be. That will be a determining factor of one, Vladimir Putin and other said countries that have an invested interest or choose to get involved. It will be up to them. That's said information. Well, I'm an hour in, and I've allowed you all the opportunity to give your opinion per the panel. That is the purpose of the panel, to give you a chance to be heard and give you and other people abroad a voice to be heard. If there's anyone out there that's in a foreign country that wanted to hit the link, they were welcome to come and give their opinion pertaining to what is transpiring in the Ukraine, why Russia decided, Mr. Putin decided to invade this country. Why? I've given you all that opportunity, but obviously no one wants to speak to give their opinion pertaining to the said situation. So you all have a lovely